friends, welcome to another Preschool at Home video. Let's start with our song. Good morning, friends. Good morning, friends. Good morning, friends. I'm glad you're here today. Hooray! Glad you're here today. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the letter Q. I have a book to read about quilting. Quilting is something that starts with Q. We're going to look at our Q page and add pictures to the Q page in our ABC book. And then we're going to sing Old MacDonald Had an Ocean one last time for the week. All right, let's get started with our book. The book I have to read is called The Quilting Bee by Gail Gibbons. It's a long book. It's a great book. I love it, and it has a lot of good pictures. But there's a lot of words, so I might skip some parts of it just to make it go faster. And I took the paper cover off because it's hard to hold while I read. Let me turn sideways so you can see the whole book. The Quilting Bee. A group of quilt makers have come together to share their time and many talents, piecing together a beautiful quilt. Their group is called a quilting bee or a quilting circle. A quilt is a warm bed covering made up of 3 layers. There's the top layer that usually has a colorful design, the cotton padding in between, and the quilt's backing. The quilters begin their project by carefully choosing or designing themselves a pattern for their quilt. Fabric of different colors, textures, and patterns soon fill the room. Make sure you can see. There you go. The quilters pick and choose the different fabrics they will use. They cut squares, triangles, and other shapes. Then they stitch the shapes together to make patterned squares called quilt blocks. Looks like they're making an evergreen tree pattern here. It takes a long time and many gatherings to create all the quilt blocks they will need. Finally, the group begins to sew the blocks together. When they are done, they have a beautiful top layer for their quilt. The top layer, the padding, and the material for the back of the quilt are stretched over a quilting frame. The quilters busy themselves stitching and tying the 3 layers together using heavy thread or yarn. Over time, the quilt begins to take shape. The room is full of activity. As the quilters stitch, they talk about the news and what's going on in their town. The art of quilting goes far back in time. The Egyptians, Chinese, and Turkish people used quilted material in their clothing for warmth. Quilting was also used as a cushion for heavy armor. In the United States, pioneer women created quilts to keep their families cozy and warm. The simplest quilt blocks were usually the most popular designs for everyday use. And these are some examples on the side of easy quilt blocks. When Mrs. Huang makes a quilt, she uses this one because that's the easiest one to do. Pioneer families were very proud of their quilts. They created them from precious scraps of cloth. Quilts were made for all sorts of reasons. Many quilt patterns had special stories to tell, such as what pioneers saw and felt as they traveled west. Oh, here are some more different types of quilt designs, quilt blocks. Over here you see the covered wagon, and then these are some quilt blocks that pioneers developed that reminded them of their travels. They're getting fancier, aren't they? Ooh, wow, look at all these fancy quilt blocks. Pioneer families often made quilts that reminded them of their new homes. So here are some animal sort of designs. Bear claw. I like the bear claw with all those pointy parts. Up, and here is a little red schoolhouse quilt block. And this is called the log cabin quilt. Quilt block, I should say. You'd make a lot of blocks and then put them all together. Other quilt designs reflected family life in the settler's home. Many quilts expressed love and caring for other people. So let's see, this one's the baby's block, the kitchen wood, the fruit basket, that's a good one, wedding ring, flower pot, friendship ring, and grandma fan. All right, I'm going to skip a couple. Oh, let's read about the crazy quilt though, because that's fun. One traditional pattern is called the crazy quilt. These quilts had no special pattern. Instead, many shapes and sizes of fabric were attached together willy-nilly. Doesn't that look like fun to make? All right, today there are still country fairs, quilt shows, and contests to choose the most beautiful, original, and interesting quilt. Members of the sewing bee work hard so they can enter their quilt in a local contest. All around the different stands, quilts are on display. Some have traditional patterns. Others are not traditional at all. Look at all those beautiful blankets and quilts people made. Very impressive work. The judges have made up their minds. They gather in front of the quilting bee and award its entry first place. Quilters agree that the quilt is special because so much good talk, laughter, and friendship were sewn into it. Everyone applauds. In a few weeks, the quilting bee is at it again. So that's our book on quilting. Quilting is a fun thing to do. Takes a lot of work though. All right, I thought we would add our Q page to our book today. So here is Q is for. And an interesting thing about the letter Q, it almost always shows up with the letter U. They're kind of best friends when you write things. Making the Q, the capital Q, is like a big circle. Well, it is a big circle. I've got my, oops, a big circle like an O, but it has a tail on the side, like this. So you go around, and then the little tail. Around, and the little tail. Get your magic writing finger out. Around, and a tail. Round, and a tail. And then lowercase q will remind you a little bit of the letter P, except it goes, wait a minute, I'm doing this backwards. There, it goes this way. And it also has a little tail that curves up. So it's got a little curvy tail at the bottom. So it goes around, down, and curve. Around, down, and curve. One more time. Around, down, and curve. So there's capital and lowercase q. And the lowercase q sits on the bottom line. You know, we've talked about that a little bit. Letters that hang underneath. Lowercase q hangs underneath. All right, not a lot of words start with the letter Q, but I have a couple pictures for us to put on our page. The first picture goes with the book we just read. Quilt. Quilt starts with the letter Q. We'll put that one up top. I have my pen. Q is for quilt. Q, U, I, L, T. Quilt. And there's that Q with the little curvy tail underneath. All right, this person is in charge of a country, a monarch in charge of a country. Wears a crown. Queen. Queen starts with Q. We'll use capital Q because it's her title. Q with the little tail. See that little tail there? Q, Q-U-E-E-N. Queen. Okay, the next is something you'll learn about when you start writing at school, and we put it at the end of a sentence when we're asking a question. What time is lunch? It's a question mark. Question or question mark starts with the letter Q. So Q U E S T I O N. Question starts with Q. Now the last picture, you're going to see an animal, but I want you to think about the sound the animal makes. That's a duck. What does a duck say? Quack, quack, quack. Starts with Q. So we're going to put the picture of the duck, but we're going to write what the duck says. Quack, quack. Q, U, A, C, K. Quack. And those are the only 4 pictures that I could find of things that start with Q that we would really talk about at school. Quilt, queen, question mark, quack. Let's put that in our book. We've done so many pages. Very impressive. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and next is Q. Q. And next week, we'll look at the letter R. All right, I've got our Old MacDonald had an ocean. I'm going to mix up the pictures again. All right, are you ready? Here we go. Old MacDonald had an ocean, E-I-E-I-O, and in his ocean he had a whale, E-I-E-I-O, with a spout, spout here and a spout, spout there. Here a spout, there a spout, everywhere a spout, spout. Old MacDonald had an ocean, E-I-E-I-O. And in his ocean he had a shark, E-I-E-I-O. With a chomp, chomp here and a chomp, chomp there. Here a chomp, there a chomp, everywhere a chomp, chomp. Old MacDonald had an ocean, E-I-E-I-O. And in his ocean he had an octopus, E-I-E-I-O. With a wiggle, wiggle here and a wiggle, wiggle there. Here a wiggle, there a wiggle, everywhere a wiggle, wiggle. Old MacDonald had an ocean, E-I-E-I-O. And in his ocean he had a crab, E-I-E-I-O. With a snap, snap here and a snap, snap there. Here a snap, there a snap, everywhere a snap, snap. Old MacDonald had an ocean, E-I-E-I-O. And in his ocean he had a fish, E-I-E-I-O. With a swim, swim here and a swim, swim there. Here a swim, there a swim, everywhere a swim, swim. Old MacDonald had an ocean, E-I-E-I-O. Well, friends, that's the end of our preschool at home video for today. We read our book about the quilting bee, we did our Q page in our ABC book, and we sang Old MacDonald Had an Ocean. Let's close with our goodbye song. Ready? Goodbye, 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 my friends, to you. God bless you everywhere you go in all you say and do.